Memory transcription subject: Slanik, Venlil space call. Date: standardized human time, August 21st, 2136. The first humans to appear on a Venlil broadcast were concealed by a vac suit and did not speak a word. The watching world had just crawled from our bunkers only to find our leaders linking arms with predators. The immediate closure of the borders was the sole thing that prevented a mass exodus and word from getting back to the Federation. There was a great deal of skepticism from the public, as Governor Tava proclaimed that these beasts were peaceful. We were all waiting for them to throw their lot in with the Axa and prove her wrong. Instead, the United Nations pledged military aid days later and showered Venlil Prime with food donations. Our citizens slowly warmed to the primates, touched by their outpouring of generosity. The sum of their good works quieted the voices calling for human extinction for the most part. The Terran astronauts were relentless too, on a television tour espousing peace. Their behavior reflected well on their species as a whole. But at the end of the day, few wanted to meet a predator in the flesh. As human volunteers took to the stars, the scientific communities of two worlds worked to smooth over our first interactions. We found ourselves inundated by Terran entertainment, granting us a peek behind their bestial exterior. The first literature Earth shared with us was Frankenstein, which I'm pretty sure was a thinly veiled analogy. How do you convince the world that you're not a monster when they decide with a single glance? The scientists decided it would make a difference mentally for us to bond and to see them as people. A program was launched to talk to a human via text chat, no videos or images. Their appearance was the stuff of nightmares, so it was easy to start without that in mind. Out of morbid curiosity, and perhaps some pity for Frankenstein's wretch, I had volunteered. The human I spoke to was named Marcel. He was a soldier with a dry sense of humour, a passion for environmental causes, and a philosophical mind. Against the odds, I liked him. We became inseparable. I confided my deepest thoughts and learned a great deal about Terran life in return.
We finally docked. Thought that was terrifying.
Marcel texted.
Longest 4 hours of my life.
It'll be worth it. I'm excited to meet you, I replied.
Me too, bud. I know it won't be easy for you. If you need space, or it's too much, please tell me.
I will. After weeks of distant communication, the final phase was exposure therapy. The plan was for us to room with our human counterpart for several days. I would be alone with a predator with no escape. They said once you got past the first few hours, the nerves would settle down. We needed to get used to the humans if they were ever to be accepted.
What do you think I look like?
Marcel asked.
In your head?
I don't know. I try not to think about it.
Why not? You know what humans look like from TV.
Well, it's weird to think that you're a predator. You look at a dead animal, all that blood and guts, and think, hey, that's food.
I'm a vegetarian, Slanik. Not applicable.
Not you specifically. I mean humans in general. The fact that you're wired to think that's appetizing, to kill other animals for a meal.
It's not like that, but it's just evolution. Biology sucks.
It does. I guess I'll know what you look like soon, Marcel.
Yep, a face only a mother could love.
I snorted, amused in spite of myself. The clicking of boots down the hall meant the humans were in the building. There were mere seconds to brace myself. I switched off my hole pad and tried to regulate my breathing. We were allowing enough of them in to handily overtake the space station if they were to try. These were social predators, so perhaps encouraging them to travel in packs wasn't the best idea. The door swung open. I was flabbergasted by the imposing wall of muscle that entered. Something deep in my subconscious howled at the sight of the predator, blocking my only escape route. Startling hazel eyes scanned my figure, and my breath hitched in my throat. Marcel's lips twitched for a moment, and I could tell from how he pursed them that he didn't want to smile. We had been warned repeatedly about the human's teeth-bearing display of friendliness.
Slanik.
The voice was harsh and raspy, as though he was gargling salt water.
I know the feeling's not mutual, but God, you're adorable.
I gritted my teeth, trying not to back away. Thanks. Come in. The human saw that I had set my belongings in the bottom bunk and tossed his duffel bag on top. Well, this isn't that bad, I thought. There had been no sudden movements, he was keeping his distance, and he didn't have the razor teeth of the Axa. With his back to me, I couldn't see his piercing eyes. All positives. My heart was hammering in my chest, but I had kept myself together.
Jeez, I'm starving,
the human announced as he began to unpack. There were few words I would have liked to hear less. Isolated in close quarters with a hungry vegetarian predator. Oh fuck. Why had I signed up for this? The nearest male was obviously me. I skittered backward on instinct, tried to shield my throat. Marcel frowned.
I was just going to suggest that we grab a bite together. Or, I brought snacks. We could share.
Sorry, I squeaked. The human retrieved a plastic bag from his belongings and popped it open with a single tug. He withdrew a yellow wafer, shoving it down his gut. As he turned the bag to face me, I eyed the offering suspiciously.
It's a potato chip,
He said, before I could ask.
baked from a Terran plant.
Did I trust a predator enough to consume his foodstuff? How did I know it wasn't dried animal fat? I tried to remind myself that this was my friend, the one who gave me relationship advice and told silly jokes. My stomach squirmed as I grasped the chip, but I placed it in my mouth anyways. It was salty and starchy, yet strangely addictive. My ears twitched with pleasant surprise. That's good,
Isn't it?
Marcel mumbled through a mouthful of food.
I figure we could use some carbs before these, experiments you want us in.
They mentioned something about that. It's psychological research, isn't it?
I don't know. Scientists just mentioned it as a test. The UN signed off on it, so I hope it's ethical.
They probably just want to be sure you don't want to eat us.
I'll pass with flying colours then. Not sure where the lab is though.
I'll take you there.
Great. Let's get it over with, shall we?
Once the fright began to subside, speaking to Marcel felt less forced. It tickled my instincts, but I don't know where my conscious brain couldn't override. A little discomfort was nothing I couldn't handle. It wasn't like he had actually done anything to threaten me or diverged from his online persona in a noticeable way. Chatting via text was easier, but it was unfair to ostracize the humans forever. The predators had been understanding enough as things were. Unless any red flags were uncovered in their psychological screening, Terran soldiers would accompany Venlo ships on today's mid-rotation patrol. It was possible UN peacekeepers would remain as permanent fixtures in our crew. In that case, I would be relieved to have a conclusive answer on the workings of the human mind. Predators were known to toy with their prey in nature. The more intelligent they were, the more sadistic and deceptive they could be. I tried not to think about what I would do if I found out Marcel's niceties were a long con. There were a few humans present at the lab, probably to monitor the methods used for research. Sarah, who I recognized as a lingering visitor from the UN First Contact team, was hunched over a microscope. She seemed to be analyzing some cell samples with a Vendel scientist and waved at us as we entered.
Welcome!
How Sarah sensed us with her lack of peripheral vision was beyond me.
Here for the behavioural exam?
Yep, I think.
My roommate grumbled.
Excellent. Just sign the consent form and then speak to Ilja here.
Sarah gestured toward the Venmill hovering beside her.
Don't worry, it'll be quick.
Marcel hesitated before scrolling his name on the dotted line. I noted how thin and frail his fingers looked for a predator. They were like spindly tweaks. Either my imagination was running amok, or his hands quivered as he set the pen down. The humans looked terrifying to us, but I couldn't picture them going toe-to-toe with the Arxer. Before the ink dried on his signature, Ilja was strapping Marcel to a chair. The restraints seemed excessive for a consensual test. Electrodes were fastened to his skull, and his shirt was removed to tape a series of wires to his chest. Clips placed on his fingers fed additional data to a vitals monitor. I noticed the human growing more agitated the more equipment he was hooked up to. The rise and fall of his chest had quickened dramatically.
Don't leave, Slanik. Please.
He pleaded.
This is making me nervous as hell.
A sympathetic ache filled my chest cavity. It was strange to think that the predator was afraid of us, but I hated seeing a friend in distress. What were our scientists testing exactly? Guarantees were necessary to cement trust in these creatures, but I was worried about what would be done to achieve that. It looked as though they were planning to elicit a violent reaction from Marcel. Human subjects deserve proper treatment, not to be goaded into retaliation. Why do I feel so protective of him? I mused. I haven't known him that long. It's going to be okay, Bas. I waved my tail reassuringly. They won't hurt you, I promise. The human furrowed his brow.
But you'll stay.
Of course. I'll be here. Marcel relaxed and the twinge in my chest deepened. The sentiments I felt in this moment suggested that despite the inherent risk, it was possible to grow attached to a predator. Whether humanity was sincere in its friendship, or if that was a one-sided delusion, remained to be seen.